Alright y'all, welcome to my first makeup tutorial where I show you how to go from this bruise to beautiful no bruise. Very easy, very demure, very mindful. So first we're going to cleanse our skin and exfoliate, obviously. Here are the ones that I prefer and that I like. And obviously I use my little pad last. And then I go in with a tea tree water toner and my moisturizer from e.l.f. And I apply a good chunk of that moisturizer on my face. You don't want any dry skin anywhere. Next, I'm going to prime my eyes with my Urban Decay primer, and then I'm going to do them and come back and apply the grippy primer from e.l.f. all over my face. And then we're going to color correct, and I have a little note. So I had to stop for a second to explain this a little bit more. Not everybody's going to be that shade of color corrector. You can't always just go into a store and buy a color correcting palette. It might not be the right one for you. You need to find one that matches your natural pink undertones. You have to find one that actually works for you. I've seen people use shades as dark as red lipstick before to color correct. Just depends on your skin tone. So if you're confused, hop on the internet, look it up. There are charts on Pinterest, the internet, Reddit. We love the makeup subreddit. Come to anybody who knows anything about makeup, and I'm sure that we'll be willing to help you. But it's easy. It's almost like the color of your lips naturally. Just the light rosy colors in your face typically, your rosy undertones. So that is going to be the best way to find your correct shade of color correcting, especially when you're dealing with something like I have naturally. That one's not bruised, that's just a dark circle. This one is obviously very bruised. So when I'm covering up something like this, I have to be using the right bases. And also, right bases, I mean silicone, water-based. Find what works for you and your skin type. They have different purposes. I prefer a water-based, so everything in this video is going to be pretty much water-based. There might be a couple silicone products, but not very many, and typically not for my face. So now with our color corrector, we're going to take a concealer brush and just pack it in. Pack it everywhere and along the sides, so if you can tell, I'm even going places where my bruise isn't. So it's not like a stark contrast of color correction and then not color correction. And I'm tapping and tapping and tapping, and then I tap with my finger and I do a second layer. Now I'm going with my green color corrector, same thing, just tap it in. And then I'm going to go in with my favorite foundation. And just using a wet beauty blender, we are tapping that everywhere, all over our face and blending. And just keep blending and blending until it looks like skin. And now we're going to go in with our full coverage concealer, and we apply that liberally. As you can see, we apply it everywhere, and we tap it out with this lovely concealer brush. And like I said, I'm tapping, not brushing. See, it packs on in layers instead of strokes. So do that everywhere, and go into areas that you normally wouldn't apply concealer because you want it to blend. Now I go in with a second coat, and I buff it out with a beauty blender. Now I'm going to apply just a couple of dots over the dark part of the bruise, and again tap it out with my concealer brush. Alright, and now we're going in with our favorite contour. Mine broke. I was very sad. Bought a new one today. But we're just going to contour everywhere I normally contour or bronze. I do my chin, my cheeks, my nose, and my forehead, and I use a putty brush from e.l.f. to blend it in. Here you can see I'm tapping again, not brushing. Always tap out, don't brush out. And I do my forehead as well, and I blend the two together just to make my forehead look a little bit more round. And then I'm just touching up my concealer a little bit from the bronzer and making sure it doesn't crease anywhere, and then touching up the chin highlights. Now I've got my favorite color blush. So to get your favorite color blush or the best color blush, that you are just going to pinch your finger and see what color it turns, and that's your shade of blush. And I put a little on my nose because it makes me feel like a little fairy. But here's what you look like when you're done with your liquid makeup. And now we are going to put on our setting powder. So I used a packed powder for the underneath of my eyes, and then I use a loose powder for the rest of my face. And I just use enough to make it so my face doesn't feel tacky anymore, so it's nice and smooth. There's nothing gripping on the brush anymore, if that makes sense. You'll be able to feel what I mean. And I go over my eyeshadow when I do setting powder. It helps it blend. Now I use a little tinier brush, a little bit warmer shade of the contour / bronzer. And then I just kind of go over all the areas that I did again. And in this light, it's going to look a little bit weird just because of my phone and everything. But I promise in person, it does not look too dark for me. And now a little bit more blush. And we're just touching up what the vibrance that the powder took out, the setting powder. So we're just adding a little bit. We're not like redoing everything. And I use a little tiny eyeshadow brush to do my nose. And then here's how I do my eyebrows. So I'll post a tutorial later, but just longest line will be from the bottom up, and it'll be from where your hair ends down. And then go from the top of your arch down to finish the tail. All right, and you're just going to go, from the top of that arch, and then go where that bottom one is, a little bit back and up, do that top line. And outline both of your eyebrows together like this before you fill them in. That way you can adjust the shape before you've already committed and filled them in. It's harder to correct it once they're filled in than it is to when they're the outline, because you can just erase the line rather than the whole big bold area. And then always fluff as you go. And then from the inner part, very light. Just add a little bit more color and then fluff it all out. This is going to give that nice ombre effect. And here's what they look like when they're both done. You can see my lighting keeps switching. And a snacky snack with my best friend because we are trauma processing while I do this. All right, curl your lashes and apply your favorite mascara. Whatever one that you like the most. Everybody's different. Everybody likes different formulas. My favorite right now is the Big Mood from e.l.f. And they just made a waterproof one that I picked up today and I'm excited to try for a photo shoot tomorrow. And now here are all my setting sprays that I have. So they range from least expensive to most, and least waterproof to most waterproof. I really like the Final Seal, but not for every day. I think that the Urban Decay All Nighter is perfect for every day. And the e.l.f. is a good dupe for it. Next, I like to use a dark lip liner. And I like to line my lips and then blend it towards the middle of my lips. And use a little bit lighter of a lip stain. So I'm using Cinnamon Dreams, I believe, from e.l.f. And I just apply that all over, and it's very creamy and hydrating. And then next I'm going to show you my lashes. So I just go from the bottom ones, which are the longest, to the top ones, which are the shortest. And I apply them like I'm showing you from the outer corner in, following my natural lash line. And this is what you look like when you're all done. All natural and beautiful, no bruise, nobody could ever tell. Have a great day, guys.